There we go. Now it's up.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Awesome. Well, thanks again to Shane and the Institute for Agroecology for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to be connecting with all of you. I'm stoked that it's Friday. I hope you are too. I hope you have fun plans for the weekend. Um, Before I forget, since we're all probably involved in food systems here in some way, shape, or form, I wanted to put NAFSIN on your radar if you're not already familiar with it. The acronym stands for the North American Food Systems Network. It's an organization that I volunteer at, and it's another really great place to get plugged in, similar to this shared space, if you're wanting to connect with other food systems professionals. It's a professional association of food systems folks, and we have a really incredible job board, tons of professional development resources. There's also a consultants directory if you're a consultant yourself. We have webinar series and tons of more resources. So it's a really great place to get plugged in. And if it's something you're interested in, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to connect you there, or feel free to just visit our website. Totally separate from what I'm talking about today. Just wanted to put the plug in there for another space to get connected. So more about me and about Grapevine. If you're not familiar with us, I'm coming from Grapevine Local Food Marketing. We are a women-led marketing agency, and we're serving primarily farms, food hubs, farm to school procurement organizations, and other food entities. We're serving these nationwide and in Canada as well. We are a small team of eight, and really helping to help food systems folks leverage marketing and e-commerce. And together, we have served over 150 food systems clients. We have a lot of great testimonials and case studies on our website if you ever want to check those out. And something that I think is really unique about our team is all of us have a background in local food systems or farming. And one of my colleagues here, I'm going to give her a shout out, Mary, is coming from upstate New York. She's actually a farmer herself. And I think that this background of ours really just informs the way that we help farmers and food systems folks solve problems and strategize, and also just really relate to their lived reality as a farmer. And so at Grapevine, I'm one of our senior marketing consultants, and I've been with the company for about 2.5 years. So I'm going to just get right into it here. I want to start by sharing what I suggest to all of my clients. So maybe you came here today thinking we weren't going to talk about websites at all. We are just going to talk about email marketing. But optimizing your website is definitely one of the most important things before you even start to think about any marketing tactics, let alone email marketing. And making sure that your business, your organization's website is optimized is really going to go a long way for your organization. And it's really going to help you stretch the email marketing efforts that you're making and really just get a better return on your investment on the time, the money, the energy you're spending on email marketing. And so if your emails have a call to action, which I definitely recommend that they should, 9 times out of 10, the action that the subscriber is going to need to make is going to be on your site. But if your site isn't optimized or it's really clunky for people to navigate, they're less likely to take action and oftentimes less likely to be interested in continuing to read your emails in the future if they feel like the information on your website is just really inaccessible or really confusing, or maybe the links that you've sent out or the events that you're asking people to schedule for are just like a really clunky process on your website. It can definitely encourage people to no longer engage or not want to engage with your marketing materials. And so I could spend a whole separate webinar talking about how to optimize your website, but I'm going to try to just focus on some quick key suggestions if you're wondering, like, okay, great, but how do I do that? Um, and so I always encourage people to think about the five W's and the H. So the who, what, when, where, why, and how. This might seem really obvious, but I think all of us get so used to like our own narrative and our own story that we forget the key details that people who have never heard of us before would need to know. And so making sure that all of that key information is on your homepage and repeated throughout your site is going to be super important, not only for your audience, but also for things like SEO and helping people discover you in search rankings. And so, really putting yourself in the shoes of your audience and asking, like, exactly what are the key, like, words and phrases that people might be searching for in a search engine like Google. And then, does your website, like, easily and clearly answer those questions that people might be typing into Google? And so, again, thinking about your org's or your business's keywords and just repeating them all throughout your site, on your homepage, all of your pages, and making sure you're really staying consistent. So I would say choose like 2 to 3 fonts, font sizes, and colors, and making sure that that's consistent throughout your site so that the experience is really cohesive. Um, as well as making sure like all of your images are the same size. Um, Making sure you have a strong logo, typically in like the top left-hand corner is a good space. And also including your logo in the footer of your website just for brand recognition, making sure that people have access to that on every single page. Um, and then making sure you have really strong images that are optimized for loading times can really improve site speed, as well as using alternative text for all of your images, can improve accessibility and SEO. And this is something that should be available in almost all of your web editors, like backends, when you're making page edits. And then just remembering that colors make people feel a certain way. So, do you feel like the colors of your brand are really aligning with your organization and your business? Do they make people feel the way that you want them to feel when they think about your organization or your farm or your business, whatever it may be? Um, and then making sure the navigation at the top of your website is really simple and organized, and user friendly. And so if it has more than 5 tabs, I would say start to consider nesting things under tabs where it feels appropriate. And then for text on your site, if you're not already utilizing headings, I would encourage you to do so. So highlighting the text and making them like H1 and H2 headers, not only helps you organize your content, it's also really helpful for SEO to come in and like index your site and know exactly what the intention of that page is to help, when your users are really searching for particular questions or organizations like yours, Google can just quickly know like the intention of your pages and give people those answers. Um, I hope that's helpful. I've done other webinars on optimizing websites. I'm always open to keep chatting about website optimizations and web audits and all those types of things. Um, I'm going to move on here to some best practices for email collection. So, if you don't already, making sure that you at least have a pop-up sign-up form for collecting emails. And then making sure that that form has a really clear call to action or incentive, or maybe you're selling something and you can offer a discount, or maybe you can offer a discount for like an event that you're hosting. Um, to really entice people and encourage people to actually sign up. And then a little trick that I like to use is if you do have a code or an offer, not actually stating it or putting it in the pop-up, but offering it in the first email that you're sending, that I would suggest is automated. And so that way it actually encourages them to the new subscriber to open that first email from you, which is really going to like establish you as a good and legit sender in their inbox, which is going to help you stay out of their spam folder, moving forward. And so just like again, including the code or the incentive or whatever it is in that first automated email. And typically this will look like a multi-part automated welcome series, and I'm going to get into that later on. And then make sure that the email that you've set up that's automated is actually set up correctly. This is where a lot of people have issues, is like they're like, oh, I set it all up, but it's like they didn't test it and it's not actually working properly. And so make sure you or even like other people on your team test it out to make sure the trigger and the automation is actually working. That way your new subscribers are being engaged in a really like timely manner. Um, and then if your email platform offers SMS, and this is something that your organization wants to consider, making sure that you're actually setting up a field in your pop-up form, for people to insert their phone number if they want to, and then including like a legal SMS disclaimer within the form. And oftentimes, email platforms already have the SMS disclaimer written in for you, and so you don't have to worry about like all of the legal wording there. But if they don't, it's also something you can look up online and include in your form. And then I always recommend configuring like a segment or typically a list, depending on what your platform is calling it. They are two different things to really organize your SMS subscribers. And so making sure that their numbers are going into a very specific list. That way, when you go to want to send like just an SMS text, you have all of them grouped together and you don't have to like sift through and do a bunch of manual work. Um, and then I would also consider adding a banner at the top of your site. This is also an alternative if you don't feel comfortable with a pop-up and you want something a little bit less invasive. You can have a pop-up at the top with, again, a call to action to sign up for your newsletter, and then that could link to something like a standalone newsletter sign-up page if you don't already have that page developed on your site. And this is like a page that you can keep hidden and just use for linking people to, if that's something you're worried about. And then you can also have a flyout form, which would appear as like a button on the side or the bottom of your site. People like to use this as well. It feels less invasive, or people like to use it as a secondary pop-up, just to like to give people a reminder to sign up for your newsletter if for whatever reason they click out of your pop-up when they first land on your site because they're like, I'm here for the first time. I'm not even familiar with this organization. Like I'm not ready to sign up. But then maybe they spend some time on your site and they're reminded by like the secondary flyout form and then they want to sign up. It still gives them an option to do so. The banner would act as the same um, resource as well because not everybody knows how to like navigate to a standalone sign up page, and it's just good to include it in multiple areas. Um, and speaking of other areas to include a newsletter sign up, it's great to have it in the footer of your website as well. That way it's accessible on every page. Um, and then, like I already mentioned, having a standalone sign up page can be super helpful. Even when you're like using other marketing materials and you're like, hey, sign up for a newsletter, it's a great space to just like be able to link people to. It's like its own page. It doesn't have any other calls to action. It's really easy for people to get plugged in. And then making sure that your email collection is organized. So I see a lot of organizations really struggling to just reconcile their subscribers and know how to organize them. And so making sure your initial forms are set up correctly and feeding into like the proper audience lists, or you're going to have to do a lot of, like I said, manual work later. Um, and then consider setting up maybe like a more detailed form than you already have to gather specific information from your new subscribers. And so from the very beginning, when you're thinking about your strategy, thinking about like the type of information that you'd want to know from your audience in order to effectively segment them into like interest groups. So a simple example is like if your organization serves farms and foodies, but you want to be sending them like completely different messages, making sure you have something like a drop down to where they can select and like categorize themselves. And then you could connect the form to a specific list. That way you've got all of your like foodies categorized into one list, all of your farmers in another list, and you can send them different messages really seamlessly. Um, and then you can do all of this by adding a form to your website using your platform's built-in option if it has that, or you can embed a form directly on your website using your email platform. Um, you may need to use Zapier to connect forms if your email and your web platform don't integrate. But this is definitely more rare and can be trickier depending on the complexity of your form. Um, we do have a free resource post on Grapevine's website about email platforms. If you're considering wanting to change and you don't know like which platform you want to change to or you have questions, we've got a comparison guide there of not only the email platforms, but which website platforms they integrate best with. Okay, moving on to, oh, I actually think I was a slide ahead. Sorry about that. But moving into some email content and sending best practices. You'll want to make sure that your emails are being sent from a branded sending domain. So, what I mean by that, for example, is an email like Sarah at farmsfirst.com instead of like Sarah farmsfirst at gmail.com. And this is something that can be done in your email platform or via Google Workspace. It can be set up. Um, this just really improves your email deliverability by helping you stay out of spam folders. And it allows you to do that by like not sharing a sending domain with others and having your reputation ruined by, other people's spammy activity that they may be doing. It can help give your brand more credibility and just builds more trust with your audience because they recognize that email every week in that domain. Um, it's also required by email providers like Google and Yahoo as of the last few years, especially for businesses who are sending like a high volume of emails every day. And then another thing to consider is having an email template if you don't already for your newsletters. Not only does this save you time by being able to like duplicate it every single week, but it also creates consistency and again, like increases brand recognition. And so some things to consider if you're designing an email template from scratch or you're like, my email template could use some improvement, is just making sure that you're actually using your business's logo and the same colors. Again, to keep things consistent, displaying your logo super clearly at the top of your email template and also in the footer of your email. Super helpful for, again, brand recognition. And then consider adding things like key evergreen information to your organization or your business to the footer of the email template. This can just be super helpful for people to like see every single week and remember like the things that you offer, or maybe it's your mission statement that you're including, or maybe you have a monthly event where like the time and the place is always consistent. That would be a great thing to include there as well. Um, and then you can also consider designing email signatures for your team or for yourself, depending on who's sending the email. So you can see here in the slide, I have an example of just like a really simple email signature we've created, having your face and a nice little photo with your name. Eye contact really just helps people stay engaged and humanizes the email. Again, just makes it feel more personal and like they know who they're hearing from every week or every month, however often you're sending out your newsletter. Okay, oops. Moving on to discuss open rates and getting creative with open rates. So, first, let's define an open rate. I'm sure everyone here knows that it's just the percentage of delivering emails or delivered emails that were opened. And I'll talk more about like good open rates that you should be looking out for here soon. But before you even think about sort of like crafting or writing your email content, you need to make sure that people are going to even open your emails in the first place, which means really getting creative with subject lines and preview text because that's really like our primary factor in driving an open rate is really capturing people in the moment of reading our subject lines and our preview text. So just asking yourself, like, would I want to open this email that I'm sending? Getting creative with the words that you're using, staying concise. I would say to avoid emojis unless you feel like it really adds to your message or works with your audience. Otherwise, it can sometimes appear spammy, especially because AI is really obsessed with using emojis right now. And so just keeping that in mind. Um, Also, A/B testing can be really good for this to see what types of subjects work best for your audience. And if you're gonna do this, I would say to only test like one factor at a time to really isolate your results. So if you're tweaking too many things in your email at once and you're A/B testing and you're getting results, you're not necessarily gonna know like which thing impacted people to open your email more. So again, just isolate those factors and run some tests to see which subject lines performed best with your audience or preview text. And then making sure you're watching your character counts for subject lines and preview text, especially because people are most likely accessing your emails via their mobile phone. And so here at Grapevine, we really aim to keep our subjects around like 9 words or 60 characters. And then the preview text around 90 characters. And these are things that you can view in when you're like testing your emails or sending them to yourself. If you don't already do that, I would definitely recommend sending a test email to yourself before you're sending them out, making sure everything's looking good, not only on desktop, but on mobile view as well. Again, because that's like kind of our one moment to capture people. And if they can't even read what we're writing, then what's the point? So making it shorter if you need to. And then moving into some more like how to structure your content for emails and how to optimize images. I feel like this one's pretty obvious, but just making sure that you're breaking up text with images and that all of your images are staying the same size. Um, you can also optimize images within emails for fast loading times like you can on your website. And so we have a free resource post on that on our website as well. If you're like, what the heck does it mean to optimize an image? We have a really easy, like free tool that we recommend using. And then almost every email platform editor allows you to add alternative text to your photos as well, again, for accessibility. And so just remembering to use like, you don't need to complicate it, use like really simple and plain language to just describe like exactly what's happening in your image, can be super helpful. And then putting your designer hat on. So making sure your paragraphs have equal spacing, making sure your text is formatted the same. Um, Things you can do are like turning some of your calls to actions on your email into buttons wherever it makes sense to drive clicks. If you have a link or something that you need people to be clicking onto to visit your website. And typically, warm colors perform best for styled buttons like this. Oftentimes, email platforms just have like a button you can already insert and then customize. And you can use like your brand colors and choose some of the more like warmer colors within your palette. Um, and again, when you're sending yourself that test email, just make sure you're testing the button and make sure like the link actually works, that it actually sends people to the right page, and that you're viewing it again in like desktop and mobile because sometimes it looks great on desktop and then your button's like puny in mobile or like the text on it is really tiny and you can't even read it. So just checking those things before you're sending them out. Um, and try to stick to just one clear call to action in your email. I know it can be really easy to just feel like you want to talk about a million things and have a bunch of different calls to action, but that's often going to result in just like decision paralysis for people and they're going to take no action at all. So just always asking yourself, like, does my email content really have a clear purpose or a focus? And trying to like keep your content informative or educational, or just like presenting people with an opportunity to always respond, whether that's like an event, an action, a petition they need to sign, whatever it may be. Okay, and then just remembering that the timing of when you're sending your email out does actually matter. And so, um, asking if like your audience feels like they know when to expect messages from you. So, we try to encourage people to send emails around like the same days and times, while also A/B testing again to like determine some of those most active times of your audience. Some email platforms will automatically tell you when your audience is most active. But again, I don't always trust that, and so I like to do some A/B testing to help determine that. Um, and just making sure that you're not over emailing your audience. Most email platforms also have something called smart sending. And so this will make sure subscribers don't receive multiple emails from you within 24 hours. So say you're sending like a manual campaign out that day, but you also have an automation turned on. You don't know when new subscribers are necessarily going to be entering something like an automated welcome series. And so you don't want to over email them. And so maybe you have smart sending turned on. That way, like it skips over that subscriber for the day, and they don't get your campaign, which is totally fine, especially if you're um, publishing it on something like your web blog as well, which is something I'm going to recommend here in a second. And so, yeah, just like I said, working about reusing your content, making sure you're working smarter, not harder. And so you can really reuse your email content as much as possible. So using it like across your website's blog, your social media, your Google business listing even has a feature to include updates in it if you have one of those for your organization. And this can just like stretch your content, expand your reach, and again, keep messaging consistent across all platforms. Of course, there are like opportunities to switch up or shorten some of the text that you have in your emails, say for like social media. But again, like same concept, same message, same idea that you can be sharing across all platforms. Okay, and then getting strategic. So, if you're not already, segmenting is super important. So, the way that you want to do this is making sure you're defining your audiences, any subsets that you may have, and coming up with a game plan of how you're going to sort them into segments. So, this is most likely going to be through a form or a survey. If you need to sort out existing subscribers, you're like, I already have this huge list, but like I haven't been doing segments from the very beginning. That's okay. Again, you can send out a survey and give people an opportunity to choose their audience type then, and just sort of like start fresh with segmentation. And you'll want to do this because it's really important to create audience specific content that you can send to certain segments rather than just creating this like general generic content that goes to your entire email list. It can really help drive engagement rates and just make sure that you're like hitting the right people with the right message. Again, improves your open rates as well, keeps them high, which in turn keeps your emails out of spam. And then, like I said, you can send out surveys to keep your audience engaged, and also it helps you gather key information about your audience. And then I said I would come back to this, setting up automations if your platform allows for it. A lot of them do these days. Or if you're like, I'm really interested in automations and my platform doesn't have it, you could check out that resource post that I mentioned to see which platforms do offer automations, and find out one that may integrate well with your website platform. Um, this will take a lot of the manual labor off of your plate and really make sure that your subscribers are being engaged in a timely manner. So if you don't have any set up, I would recommend starting with a multi-part welcome series and something that we like to call a sunset flow. Um, and then consider like adding SMS components to some of those flows if certain messages feel super like timely or worthy of a text. So maybe something like an event or a reminder to sign up for to sign like a petition or to sign up for an event. Those could be ideas for having like an SMS component to your automation. Um, there's a lot of other automations to consider. These really depend on your business or your organization's goals. Um, I would encourage you to explore your platform's capabilities because a lot of them have pre-made flows. And they're like ideas that you've maybe never even thought of, or ways that you can segment your audience that you didn't think of, that again could really help you improve engagement and open rates. Um, and then before I dive more into like what a welcome series and a sunset flow really are, I want to think about analyzing email metrics. And so if you're not looking at your metrics, I definitely encourage you to be checking your email metrics at least every month. These can often be found in the back end of your email marketing platform. Some of them have better metrics than others. Again, that's another consideration if you're looking to change platforms, is what are the reporting capabilities. And so some key metrics that we like to keep an out for every month are our open rates, which I talked about. A good standard open rate for an engaged audience is anywhere between like 35 and 40%. Obviously, if you're higher than that, amazing. A click-through rate, which is measuring how many people are actually clicking on a link within your email. We like to see this around 3 to 5%. I know that can seem really low, but that is like a good industry standard for an engaged audience. Um, if you have a measurable action, looking at your conversion rate as well, we like to see this sitting around like 2 to 5%. Your bounce rate, which is going to track any undelivered emails, um, tracking like hard bounces versus soft bounces. And typically you want to see this under 2%. And you definitely start to enter like a high risky zone if it's above 5%. Um, and so this will allow you to just like immediately remove those like hard bounce subscribers from your list to really keep your list clean. Um, and then the last thing we like to look at is your unsubscribe rate. You really don't want to see this higher than like 0.2 to 0.5%, or you need to look at changing something about your email marketing strategy. Um, so to improve the health of your email, if any of these numbers are out of range for you, you can consider a lot of the suggestions I've gone through today to see what to tweak, or you could start doing some A/B testing if you feel like I've already done all of these suggestions. I don't really know where to start. A/B testing could be a good route to go to really allow your audience to answer those questions for you. Okay, and then going more into a welcome series, we like to build out multi-part welcome series here, and they perform really well for a lot of our clients. This can be a great way for like slowly warming new people up to your brand and your story, helping really establish you as a good sender in their inbox as well, um, because they're going to be opening those emails to get familiar with you. And we encourage to space, I would say, like these 3 to 5 emails out over the course of about 2 to 3 weeks. That way, new subscribers aren't getting bombarded with a ton of information. And this is like settings that you can do in the back end of your email platform when you're setting up your automation, is like create different time periods between each email. Um, Again, remembering to focus on the 5 W's and the H. And so thinking of your welcome series as really similar to the homepage on your website. Like, what are the key things that new people would need to know about your organization or your business? And so asking yourself that question, asking yourself, like, why is my business important or unique? Why should they support our mission? And where are you located and how can people get involved? And then consider when you're setting up an automation, consider actually sending different welcome series to different subscribers. And so if you do have an initial form that people are filling out and they have filled out that they're a foodie instead of a farmer, maybe you're sending them like an entirely different welcome series because it needs different messaging or they need different event reminders. Or like you have 2 different sectors of your organization and like different people need different information. And so that's actually a trigger that you can set up in the back end of like a welcome series automation once you have the survey results. And then something like a sunset flow is super key for keeping your list clean. So if you have never gone through and removed unengaged subscribers, and you have a low open rate, I would definitely say that's like a key thing to look at first, in trying to clean up your list. So, a sunset flow is just going to remove those who haven't recently engaged with your content if it's set up correctly. And so we like to give people an opportunity to engage 2 more times before we decide to remove them from our list. And so they'll get like 2 automated warnings. And then after the second warning, if the profile or like the subscriber hasn't engaged with any of those emails, then it's automatically removed from your list. And our recommendation is to sunset or unsubscribe those subscribers who haven't engaged within the last 6 months. And this can just again increase your open rates, your deliverability rates, ensuring that you're only like sending messages to the people who are really highly engaged on your list is again going to help you stay out of spam. And then some platforms will actually offer you a template for something like a sunset flow. And so you can just plug and play if your platform offers that. We really like Klaviyo, and Klaviyo definitely offers like a template for a sunset flow. And I'm pretty sure they actually coined the term sunset flow. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but um, yeah. I know we want to have some time for Q&A, so I'm going to stop there. Just a friendly reminder that Grapevine is here to help. If you have any questions about any of the content I've gone over today, or you're like, I don't know how to set that up, I really want to contract you guys out to help me. We've worked with over 100 food systems clients, and many of those clients have received grants and then bring us on as a contractor. So I just want to remind everyone here that we do offer free letters of support if you're looking to um, apply for a grant and you really want to like write marketing or website support into it. We do help with that. We've got some QR codes here on the slide where you can discover more on our website, schedule a consultation with us, and explore a lot of the free resources that I mentioned today. But I hope all of this was helpful, that you learned something new, and appreciate all of your guys' time and listening to me chat for so long.
Thank you so much, Brooklyn. I know we are running a little short on time. I know I have a few extra minutes to stay on. I don't know if you do, Brooklyn,
Yeah,
after the
definitely.
top of the hour.
Yeah.
So, does I guess what I will say before we get into questions that we can let run over is for all those who are joining new and again joining in or have joined in before, thank you so much for being here. We hope you'll join the community of practice. These are the type of things that we're really trying to bring into folks. So thank you all for being here. And I will open it up. So any questions for Brooklyn about email or really anything else? You
Yeah.
can just come off of mute, jump it into the chat, whatever works for you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of around the like topic of subject lines, we've been working on trying to figure out like is kind of like not listing what's included, but kind of like making like that first thing a part of the subject, really just trying to figure out what is the most engaging thing for people. And I was
Mhm.
wondering if you had any guidance on like what to look for like in your own newsletter or something you're sending out on how to like pull that subject line.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say focus on like your main call to action and then how can you like how can you create an enticing question from that? So like a really bad example is like, oh, like interested in X or like learning, like wanting to know more about X. And like just starting from that question of like getting people intrigued. So not necessarily like giving them the information, but getting them curious about wanting to like open the email and be like, oh yeah, I do need that information, but like I have to open the email to find out what it is. And so I think like asking questions of your audience can be helpful, rather than just like giving them that information right away. I do think sometimes it is helpful to just like plain and simple lay it out what's in your email, especially if it's like a resource that you know people have been like waiting for and they're going to see it in their inbox and be like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this guide or this event. Then I think just like stating it plain and simple is helpful. But yeah, coming up with like those questions for your audience to really like entice them and pull them in. Um, I also love to, honestly, like I think some of my clients are incredible writers, and I have like an ongoing doc of like creative subject lines that I see people creating that may not necessarily like apply to my exact content, but it's like a concept that I want to reuse. Um, and so just taking inspiration from other good writers as well has been helpful for me. I hope that helps answer your question.
Then we have one in the chat, Brooklyn, from Julia saying, curious about any insights on decision making around newsletter frequency. My org has been on a quarterly cycle since before I joined, and I'm considering increasing the frequency, but don't want to alienate folks who may not like being bombarded with too many emails.
Yeah, that's a great question. If you're just doing quarterly, I would ramp up slowly to monthly. And then if I would really monitor metrics around that time. And so if you're seeing unsubscribe rates like skyrocket because people are again like being bummed that they're being emailed way more, then you could start to like peel back again to just quarterly. But I would start slow and then continue to ramp up. I think we get really self-conscious about people being bombarded, but if we have really like good content within our emails, like people will want to read them. And I think it's okay to email people weekly. But in your situation, Julia, I would say start out monthly, and just work up. And if your engaged rates and your open rates are high, like keep working up to weekly emails. And make sure you've got those automations set up too, like a welcome series, so people like know what to expect from you. Even like some of our clients who are really conscientious of not wanting to bombard people with too many emails will like state in their welcome series like how often they can expect to hear from them. Like you can expect to hear from me every week or every month or whatever it may be, just to really be like super transparent about the type of things that you're going to be sending out and how often you'll be sending them out. And
But
then
yeah,
I
I'm
see
gonna
another.
stop sharing your screen too for a sec.
Oh yeah, go for it. I just wanted to give people a chance to scan the QR codes if they needed to. But
Yeah, some more in the chat.
okay, let's see.
What about sending a shortened version with a link or call to action to read the rest on your site? I'm assuming newsletter, Jenny, is that what you are referencing? And
Yeah,
then also
probably.
there's a question about the length of newsletters.
Yeah. I've had people explore just sending a link or a CTA to read the rest on their site. I don't love that approach. We haven't seen great engagement rates from that. Um, So I wouldn't necessarily suggest that, especially if you have like a really beautiful design template and you're not including too much in your email, which is I'm gonna get on the like the length of emails. I would say like keep them shorter than you think. And so if they are like pretty short or relatively short, like you shouldn't need to include a link to your website. Um, but keep like having them on your website as well, like I mentioned, is super helpful. So like having them in both spaces. That way, like no matter where someone's engaging with you, like they have that information. And it's super helpful for people who aren't already subscribers to like see the type of content that you're sending out and they're like, "Ooh, I want that in my inbox every week. Like I'm gonna subscribe." Um, I think can be helpful. As far as like specific length, I would say it really depends on how often you're sending it out, and like the purpose of your email content. So, like, for example, we are sending out a monthly newsletter ourselves because we're sending like marketing updates and also like farmer grant updates. You know, we have like a bunch of different things that people expect to hear from us. And so we've sort of like grouped them out into sections that people expect from us, and it makes it like easy to just approach them in like bite-sized pieces. But I would say each section doesn't have any more than like three short paragraphs in it or like one longer paragraph if that's helpful. Um, yeah, I hope that helps. We're considering combining newsletters to reach wider audiences with different subject matter. We have 7 newsletters going to different segments, wondering if folks would be likely to engage with topics they're not currently seeing. Oh, I see. Okay. 7 segments is a lot. I will be I will be honest. Like I think that's great that you've like made your audience so granular. But I agree that you could maybe size it down to probably like 3 or 4. I would for smaller to like even mid-sized orgs, I would say 2 to 3 is good to have. But I agree that you could maybe start combining them and getting a little bit less like niche, in order to like put more information in front of more people. it really depends on your organization too. Like if you guys have a bunch of different things that you're doing that really aren't that applicable to everybody, then, you know, maybe it is useful to keep them so segmented. But if not, I would say consider combining some of those into like 3 or 4 target groups.
Yeah, for folks who need to hop off, feel free. But anyone else have questions? We still got a few minutes. Going once or twice. All right. So what we're gonna do is we'll package this all up and send it out along with the recording and the presentation. Brooklyn is on the community of practice, so you can always find her there. And I think she'll be following up on this thread as well. So you'll get the contact information, which we'll also include. But Brooklyn, seriously, thank you so much for all your expertise. It was really nice to kind of hear and to start strategizing. And folks, thank you all for joining. And next month, we're going to be talking media relations with Amanda Goki from the Boston Globe, which is usually a favorite. So we hope you all tune in on the last Friday of March, and we'll have some more information then.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shane. Thanks, everyone. Great to meet you.
Thanks.